maybe we'll just hold on for a second. Hey, Lou.
What's up, Patsy?
How are we doing?
Oh, not too bad.
Not too bad. Uh, I I uh, I was thinking about yesterday. Right. Well, hold on. Let's get Frank in here. Hey, Frank.
Hey, guys.
What's up, Frank?
Oh. Hey, Lou. How you doing?
Good.
Good.
I'm guessing we can all hear each other and everything just fine.
Yeah.
It certainly sounds like I can hear you guys great. So
Good.
Frank, you missed the memo. We're supposed to wear an Under Armour hoodie today.
Oh, I didn't get that. Sorry.
And the preferable color was blue, I guess.
I'll have to do a better job of texting you guys.
Grab it.
I wanted to, a few things we need to obviously we need to talk about. But yesterday was Thanksgiving, and one thing I noticed about yesterday, my in-laws were over. Please, everybody, don't get all excited about that. They live next to me, so we're always back and forth anyhow. So if we're ever going to infect each other, we would have happened a long time ago. But then afterwards, whenever over my parents' house, and so I had conversations with basically both sides of the family, and it hit me on my way home that for the first time in like 4 years, we had like normal, everyday, boring Thanksgiving conversations. There wasn't anything. There was like no drama anywhere all day, right? Nobody was nervous about anything. Nobody was really, bitching about anything other than, the normal, family bitching, back and forth, whatever my parents' house. And, my cousin Kim just had a baby. So we were seeing, baby pictures and, going all look at the cheeks, and, all that fun stuff. But none of that, none of the hand wringing, none of the bitching and complaining. It just for the first time in a long time felt pretty normal. Like normal, boring anything. Did you guys, was it the same way for you?
Well, it was pretty much me and my wife at home because my parents had my aunt over there. And let me tell you a good story about that. My brother stopped over real quick. If I would have went back down, I would have worn a mask. And I don't know if I told you, my sister was supposed to come in from Florida. And when Pennsylvania put that in, she says, we're not coming. And actually, it's a good thing she didn't come, because if she would have came, my daughter was sick from last weekend through now. And they told her, and one of the girls she worked with was exposed to COVID. They didn't think she had it. They thought it was a sinus infection. So they said, you better go get tested. So she went today over to Wick in Youngstown to get that quick test. She got the quick test. It came back negative. The nurse looked at her, says, honey, I hate to tell you this, but this is like 60%. And looking at you and listening to you, you have COVID. And I can guarantee it about 95%.
Wow.
So they made her take a second test that's more accurate. It will take a couple days to come back. They wrote her a prescription right on the spot for steroids. So as near as we could figure, she's probably had it in her 10 days.
Wow.
So if yesterday she wouldn't have known, and if my sister was there and she would have went down, how many people could she have infected?
Yeah, quite a few.
Yeah. There would have been at least, well, there would have been 10 people there at least if my sister came in.
Right. So let's just be stupid and say a quarter of them. It jumps on a quarter of them. We're just gonna be stupid here, okay? and it because it one person can infect three, right? It's pretty much how it works. So quarter of
Two of the people are in their mid to late 80s.
them.
My sister-in-law would have been there. She has MS. And my aunt has had issues. She will be 71 next week. So what kind of a disaster could have come out of just those four?
Wiped your family out. Really would have. It'll wipe you guys out. That's terrible. Luckily, she didn't do anything. Luckily, she stayed home.
Yeah, I said, don't you dare go anywhere. And the issue is she's thinking she could have got it at work. Her husband he's a door installer in Pittsburgh, commercial. He's constantly at St. Clair. A week and a half ago or so, he was repairing doors. Then they informed him he was on a COVID floor. He could have very easily brought it home without even
Not even knowing.
He could have been asymptomatic and brought it home.
Yep.
Yep. Plus, she's in medical, and you don't know.
You don't know. You don't know.
So that's and what do you keep saying? Wait 2 weeks.
Wait 2 weeks.
Yeah. Let's mark down December 10th, 12th.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we always say give it 2 weeks. Well, Lou, at least she recognized things and took the right steps, to just prevent it. So that was good.
But she's in the medical profession, so she constantly watches, even constantly watching.
Good for her.
Yeah.
Good for her. Frank, what was yours like?
So, we usually go to two places, and one of the places we would typically have to kind of be on our P's and Q's about not talking politics because there's a division in terms of who backs who and all that kind of stuff. So that place yesterday was really just pretty much laid back. It was really easy going. There wasn't much talk about anything. A little bit of sports talk, food talk, family talk. It was fun. The other place, is always just more kind of, it doesn't matter if we talk about it because everybody's on the same page and everybody's kind of bitching about the same things. So, there was a little bit of laughter yesterday, a little bit of kind of making fun of what's been going on recently in Trump world. Kind of same things we talk about on here or talked about in that place. And, but, both those folks were very concerned about masking up, and they what they did was with everybody, they did like a drive-up Thanksgiving.
President Trump is a
We went up, picked up food, staggered, like my other relatives went up there earlier in the day, picked up their food, sat and talked with relatives for a little while, and then I went up a little later with my kids, and we sat and talked for about 15, 20 minutes, and they boxed everything up for us, and we left. So everybody wore masks. At the other place, it was no mask wearing, and everybody sat at the table together. So it was kind of like, well, you could tell which side is backing who.
Yeah, it was pretty black and white there.
Yeah.
I was really relieved. Like I said, I didn't even realize until I was on my way home. Because my parents live too far away from you. And I was just, I don't know, probably by the time I got probably onto the west side, getting into Mahoney Town, I was like, hey, you know what? This has been a pretty boring day. Man, I hope it's like this for for quite a while. It was nice to see.
Boring in a good way, for sure.
Yeah. You know what? I can handle 8 years of boring. I can tell you that right now without breaking a sweat.
Yep.
After the 4 that we had to put up with, I don't mind. I don't mind at all. Just saying, it was your typical Thanksgiving. It was your typical Christmas. It was your typical, whatever. And keeping with the theme of your typical whatever, an hour ago from the AP, Appeals court rejects Trump's challenge of Pennsylvania race.
Mm-hmm.
So another one.
Yeah.
This was the federal appeals court in Philly, which
Right.
I believe all the justices on that court, Frank, tell me if I'm wrong, are all Republican, with one of them a Trump appointee.
Well, the three panels, the three judges on that panel were all Republican appointees. Yeah, and they and the one who wrote the opinion, the lead opinion, was a Trump appointee. Sounded like it was a Greek last name, maybe, but I can't remember his name right off the top of my head. But I read the opinion. I read about what he had said. So yeah, I mean, it was pretty scathing. As a matter of fact, he said, these are serious allegations. They should be taken seriously, but they need to be backed up by serious evidence. You have to write the kind of correct allegations, and you have to back it up by evidence. And we didn't have either of those things. In other words, they didn't have very credible allegations. When you make these kind of allegations, they're serious, but they need to be credible, and they weren't. And you need to back it up by credible evidence, and they didn't have that either. And that's pretty. I mean, that's a smackdown. That's a federal judge saying, you came here with nothing from the jump. Like, the paper you wrote on was crap. The words on the paper were crap, and backed it up with nothing.
The paper he wrote on wasn't worth a shit.
Pretty much what he told him,
Frank, do you know anything on the merit of the one filed by Kelly and Parnell that's still hanging out there?
No, I don't need to look at that one. Where did they file that one in central Pennsylvania?
I think, and they actually, from what I could tell, it's on hold, pending. Because they were actually asking them to toss out every mail-in ballot in the state.
Yeah.
They said
it was against the Constitution of the state, even though it was written by the Republican House, Republican Senate passed it, and it was signed by Governor Wolf.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's, it's a blatant attempt to disenfranchise folks. It's like, okay, we told you, the government told you this is how you should vote. They prescribed the method. We relied upon it as voters. And now you're going to say, oh, we got you. We fooled you. This is actually, we wrote something that's unconstitutional. You fell for it. So all your votes get tossed out.
I'm sorry.
Wild. No, just to say it would be a wild, theory. On the other hand, there is a thing called, I'm trying to remember the exact wording, but it's reliance. It's basically reliance. Okay. If you call detrimental reliance, if you rely upon a government authority telling you this is the way it's to be done, and then they try to pull it out from under you later, you can claim detrimental reliance and say, I heard it from the authority. I relied on that. Had I not relied upon that, I would have done it the other way. And it's a compelling argument, especially in this situation. And I don't think you can get around it. I just don't think you can get around detrimental reliance. When, as you said, Lou, this was passed by a Republican-led legislature, signed by a Democrat governor. As people of the state, what more do you need to see? You're not expected to be a constitutional scholar.
Right, and it was agreed upon it was a bipartisan agreement, citing the Times.
Guys, just play along with me for a second. When did this law go into effect?
Well,
let me lead you on. Was it before or after the primaries?
It was before the primary, because you were allowed to.
Yeah.
Because you were allowed primary wise, which you normally couldn't either.
Right. So challenge the primary, but they'll challenge it on the general.
So how do you do that? How do you challenge, which is in essence the second time you did this, and not wipe out the first time you did it?
Again, you're talking about reliance, because people have an expectation now that you can do it that way without a problem. Now, I mean, you can say that we still have subject matter jurisdiction over it, because, even if somebody does something wrong 3 times and the first time you catch on to it being wrong is the third time, you can challenge it. But the problem is you're disenfranchising people who are, I don't want to use the term innocently, but use the term with reliance upon this
Right.
method that's been prescribed for them, utilizing that method that's been prescribed for them, and then it would it would negate their right that they have to vote by relying upon this thing. So even if they have a legal ground to stand upon to say that it was unconstitutional, which I'm not saying they do, the overcoming the idea that the public has relied upon it, um, both in experience and from hearing that this is the way to do it from the government themselves, it's a high hurdle to overcome.
That would put like all these folks out of a job.
Yeah.
I mean, just reading into it, a rhetorical question is: these guys didn't figure that shit out before they filed this lawsuit. I know. You guys know my feeling about Kelly, right? And believe me, I've seen this guy in action, right? He's the only person in the Republican Party that may be dumber than Trump. All right. I mean, honest to God, he's a doorknob. He really, I don't know how the fuck he's a used car salesman.
Do you think, on that topic, do you think it would be a good idea for somebody in our region to primary him on the Republican side?
Yeah. Yeah. I do.
I think maybe on the merit of that alone, maybe they could get some ground.
Yeah.
And I mean, anybody with common sense you would think would do a job against him.
Yep.
And they just got to point out what he was willing to sell you out and lose his job over the whole damn thing because the asshole doesn't know any better.
Right.
The guy you want representing you?
Yeah. Not researching, not understanding, just flying off the handle haphazardly.
This opens the door to a Democratic challenger too now, doesn't it? Because they can, I mean, yeah, it's going to be a couple years from now and people have short memories, but it's another brick in the wall.
I mean, how badly did Nibus get beat this last time, Christy Nibus?
I don't know. Lou, do you know?
It was, she was a little further off than the last guy in the midterms.
Yeah.
But I think that had a lot to do with the down ballot on Trump being heavy in this region also.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think if she gave a run in the midterm and tried to stash some money, she might have a chance then.
Yeah, I don't think she's going away. I think she's going to try one more time. And, if there is a chance of a Democrat upsetting in this region, it would probably be that at that point in time. But then we have the historic issue of midterm of a new president, and there's always a little bit of backlash, usually a little bit of backlash against the party that's in the presidential seat. So she may have to get that uphill battle. And that's why I'm thinking, in a way, it might be good to get some reasonable candidate to just primary him. Because if an R wins that's a moderate R, that's somebody that's reasonable, that has a good head on their shoulders, that's going to govern from the standpoint of almost like a Connor Lamb, okay? Who cares what the initial in front of the name is? If they can appeal to Western Pennsylvanians and talk about this common sense issue of you've got an idiot who's an embarrassment to this community running the show. Get him out of here. You want an R in there? You want somebody with an R in front of it? Fine. We'll give you a good R,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it would work. It would definitely work, especially now whenever they're all going to be butthurt about, this is what, the 24th, 25th time Trump has lost this election already?
Yeah.
Just in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, just in PA. Yeah. I'm shooting for 30, dude. I want 30.
He's past 30 overall. I think he's about 1-37 now.
No, I mean just in Pennsylvania.
Oh, Pennsylvania. Yeah, he's approaching 30 in Pennsylvania.
I want 30 in the Commonwealth. That's going to be damn near what, 40 by the time if it goes to 30 here.
Yeah.
Be damn near 40 nationwide.
I mean, there's the ones in Michigan. There's Nevada. There was Georgia. Yeah, I mean, they're just stacking them up.
Yep, good. Uh, did you guys happen to see that that joke of oppressor he had?
Wow. Yeah.
Well, what do you think about it first? Let me ask you guys that. What do you guys think of that? We can go everywhere, everything from the the desk. It was about as big as the one I sat in Mrs. Hersel's class, in third grade, uh, to the way he attacked a reporter for asking him a question. Don't you ever talk to a president that way? It's like, what the fuck? Oh, don't even. What'd you think of that? I thought the size of the desk showed a lot. Frank, I'll start
Yeah.
with you.
It was funny. I mean, it was, if it wasn't so on brand for the president, I would almost think like this is him trolling people. But um, this is him being the goofball that he is. I mean, his perception of everything is so askew. He thought that he was going to rule like the next Khrushchev, or not Khrushchev, the next Stalin, or uh, Hitler or Mussolini. That he thought he was going to control the country that way with misinformation, and it didn't matter how he conducted himself. But his conduct has been abhorrent, both in the visual that you saw there, um, and secondly, the way that he conducted himself with the people there. The reporter, as you said, he I couldn't quite make out the question that was being asked of him. I know it was a follow up question to a previous question that they asked him about, um, and he didn't like being questioned again on that same topic, um, because he felt like he gave the answer. So to him that was disrespectful that they would somehow follow up on the question. Um, and that's him. He's not used to being held to account. He was ultimately held to account in this election, and he can't. That's what he can't really accept. He can't accept that for the first time in his life he's been held to account. Massively beaten about the head, and it's becoming real to him. So now he's losing his shit.
Lou, I'm half tempted to put a bet on that he sold the Resolute desk. He's got a lot of bills he's got to pay, man. You can get a couple million for that desk, I'm sure. He's got some IKEA piece of shit he's sitting behind now. He sold the Resolute desk. You think I'm off?
I don't think he's allowed to sell that. Was that a gift?
Is Barr going to go after him? Come on.
Wasn't that, how old is that desk?
About as old as Biden, probably. Oh no.
There's a story behind that desk from what I heard. He just looks stupid sitting behind it.
Well, he looks stupid sitting behind anything. But honest to God, I mean, that's kind of like wearing a jacket 2 sizes too small, isn't it?
Yeah.
So after this impromptu dumpster fire of a presser, at some point I forgot which reporter it was, but I'm pretty sure it was a female reporter. So probably narrowed it down to a third of the people in there. Asked him about will he end up leaving the White House or something like that, right? And of course he said, yeah, he let it slip that he will leave the White House. But then in typical Trump bullshit fashion, he comes back with, I believe it was on Twitter, and said he won't leave the White House unless Biden, quote, can prove he won 80 million votes. Does he not get that he doesn't have a choice? It's not like people are going to ask him to move, or you say, there's not like Pelosi's going to send him a letter and then say, by the 20th, you're out, or we're taking the hinges off the doors, right? He doesn't have a choice. He's out. He's gone. He better get the U-Haul and get shit going.
He's such an alternate universe, him and his followers, that he's in denial to himself.
You think it's denial, Frank, or do you think he just can't face the fact that he was rejected?
I mean, yeah, that's kind of it, right? I mean, I think that what Lou's saying is that he's just got to keep that perspective, like in his own mind. He's got to keep denying it because he is having such difficulty with accepting it. He's having he kept trying to sell this idea that he was part of the silent majority, when clearly it was the opposite. It was the people like us who, I mean, well, we're the loudmouths on our side, let's face it, because we have this show that we talk every day just about. But for the most part, people on our side, so to speak, they stayed quiet. They didn't go to rallies. They didn't go yelling and screaming. They didn't ride up and down the road with big flags on their big trucks and make a big spectacle of themselves. We're the silent majority, and he couldn't accept that. He had it all twisted around like he does everything. He twists everything, and now he's got to come to grips with it, and he just can't. He can't come to grips with it. He doesn't want to let himself psychologically ever come to believe or terms with the idea that he got beat. He's got to keep saying it's a lie, it's a hoax, it's rigged, it's this, it's that, it's everything. It's always the way he's been. If you go back, my mom was telling me that there was something he did earlier in his life where he lost something and he claimed it was rigged. He claimed that the tests or whatever he took in school were rigged against him, or the professors, had it out for him because they gave somebody else a better grade in the class than he got. He can never psychologically accept that he's not the best. And I mean, you're just seeing another example of it here in this situation. The thing that gets me about this, though, is if you've got all these folks out there who continuously claim that Trump is their guy because he doesn't care. He doesn't give a shit about what anybody else says. He'll say and do whatever he wants to do. He's my man because he just shoots from the hip, blah, blah, blah. He's this great businessman. The coolest of the cool thing to do if you were that guy would be to say, you know what? I turned this whole thing on its head. You want to pick somebody else? Go for it, man. I'm a billionaire businessman. I don't give a crap. Good on you. I'll see you guys next time around. And just walk out. Not whine and cry about it. That would be the coolest of the cool. But he's incapable of doing that because he's so small that he can't do it. He just can't let himself do it.
I see these clowns, Lou, and I don't know, Frank. I don't know what it's like on your end of town, but I mean we're still surrounded by the true believers, right? And that's what I call them, the true believers, right? Or they're going to fight to the death, right? It's your death or my death or somebody's death, but they're going to fight to it. Lou, the idea of an impeached president not being reelected isn't exactly a stretch. I mean, we have a historic precedent, right? I don't get why it's so hard for him just to say, well, you know what? This isn't the first time it happened.
I mean, he was impeached, but how did they play that out? Russia hoax that the true believers still believe was a hoax, even though the Mueller report and the Senate report say otherwise. You have it's just in him denying everything. Then you have these true believers thinking Fox News is lying now when they actually report the truth.
Well, it's because it's so rare for them to report anything accurately that, whenever what they report matches up with, real news sources, their brains just can't handle it.
No.
It's just unbelievable to me. In the world of information, that they're just blissfully ignorant and choose to be so.
Yeah. My neighbor across the street, guys, you talk about, I don't see many signs left up around the area. I see Biden signs left up around the area. And
I did too.
Kind of jokingly said to my family, but half jokingly, half serious, ours are going to stay up till January 20th. January 20th, it'll be like the Christmas tree, right? January 7th, our Christmas tree comes down because that's the end of the 12 days of Christmas. You go back to the old traditions. January 20th, I'll take the signs out of the yard. But there's a guy across the street from me, okay? Former state police officer. His wife was a former reporter for the Newcastle News. Not a big time. I mean, whatever. I mean, I'm not. She wasn't a very
the system though, right? Still part of the system.
Very well known reporter, but still somewhat there. And they still have their Trump sign up in their yard, and I'm just laughing. I'm like, why? I mean, what are you getting at?
I don't get it either. I mean, do they think that I don't know, keeping the sign-up's going to change anything? You saw this shithead across the street from me, right, Lou? I mean, it's still
you have about 15 there.
Still,
yeah,
the only ones
still.
that took down were Lynn Ryan signs. Those were it. The Lynn Ryan signs were the only ones that came down. And Frank, what I tell you, he's got every flavor of Trump 2020 sign that you could possibly imagine, just lined up, just stacked, one right after the other, all along his front yard. I'm not shitting. There's not two that are the same.
Yeah,
and he's got to have 15 of them.
We need to change the narrative too. I mean, this reminds me of it reminds me of the whole idea when we were talking. You guys were talking about the messages, and Lou, you're a big one on the messaging, and it's important to get that right. And I agree with you 100%. And talking about the alternate realities after the 2016 election, I heard so much shit from the Paul Ryans of the world until he retired, the Mitch McConnells, the Marco Rubio is another one. Okay. We've got a mandate from the people. We've got a mandate from the people. You had 3 million less votes than the rest of the people in the world, but you got a mandate from the people. And they started messaging that because they wanted to push through all the shit that they wanted to push through. The media and we as people need to hold the media to account and say, you need to start reporting every single day. There's a mandate in this country. The mandate is that Trumpism is dead, that the democracy that was important and valued by our country was rescued by the people, and we installed Joe Biden as our president to have Democrat ideas and ideals put forward, and he's our standard bearer right now. And there's 6 million more people that voted for that in this country against an incumbent president. It's a mandate, and they need to go to Marco Rubio and say, do you understand that right now there is a mandate in this country? You do understand that, right? You acknowledge that, Marco Rubio. There's 6 million more people voted for Biden in the national election. He won over 300 electoral college votes, first time that an incumbent did that, to defeated an incumbent. You realize that's a mandate, right? I think they should ask him every single day, flood him with it. People should flood him with it. His constituents should flood. We should call his office and say, does Marco Rubio know that this is a mandate right now? Because fuck him. Let's face facts. Fuck him. Okay? And all of
them. He won't recognize that there was a mandate.
No.
You see, you understand there was a mandate. No, I don't think so. I don't know. That's yet to be determined. That's what you're gonna get. These fucking cowards.
Yep.
Cowards. Right?
Yep. Absolutely.
I mean, why is it so hard, Lou, for one of these clowns any one of these Republican idiots to just stand up and say, look, it's over, our guy lost, that's it. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? We gained 6 seats in the House. We held on to the Senate, so we're doing something right. We just got to build on that.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have 2 years to do it, right to the midterm, which, like you said earlier, Frank, traditionally swings to the party that's not in the office, not in the White House, right? Even if it's just a little bit, it still sort of swings that way.
If you have proper messaging, and with what's going on right now, by the time Biden gets in, if the COVID thing gets straightened around, you're right. I'd be pounding that messaging, the mandate. This is what we did. This is what we want. We trounce Trump and keep it up and keep the messaging up as far as what socialism actually is Hey, do you like that PennDOT snowplow that's clearing the roads next week if it snows? That's socialism.
Yeah.
You know, every little thing. You know, the cop that's the white supremacist, he's still a socialist.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He might be a Nazi too, but he's still a socialist. We pay his salary.
Yeah. Well, we can get into the history of why there's a police department to begin with, and none of these assholes would believe it. So let's just
Yeah, that's true.
let's just walk away from that. This idiot today also said that they're going to be distributing the what do you call it, the coronavirus. What am I drawing a blank? Come on.
Vaccination.
Vaccine. Yeah, it's a big word for me, right? I'm sorry. In 2 weeks. This idiot said 2 weeks. Remember he said, and Biden better not take credit for this? Remember that bullshit he just said, right? They're going to distribute it in 2 weeks. Okay. The FDA, who has yet to get a emergency request from anybody making them, won't even meet for another week. How the hell are we going to do this? And you know what? I promise you, Fox Entertainment's running with this shit. And if they're not, that asshole Limbaugh is. You know, so you want to talk messaging? This is where they say, and Lou, this is where I say that the Democrats, they can't. It's the chemistry of the Democratic Party. Don't get me wrong. It's not like they have a choice. But what you hear on Fox Entertainment is what you read on, or what you see on Fox Entertainment is what you read on Breitbart, and it's what you hear on Limbaugh. Okay? So they get you with all three senses. Try to find three, because you have the visual, you have the written word, and you have the audio. Try to find three sources that are left-leaning that can say the same thing, that are in that lockstep. I'll take it away.
What's it?
You can't. You can't.
I mean, Stephanie Miller's limited, truthfully.
Yeah.
In her audience. You really don't have no matter what they say in the mainstream media, other than Fox, is there a counterpart that's liberal?
No. No, there isn't. Frank, this is where I say that the Democrats fail at messaging. I mean, like I said, you have to give them a pass for a lot, because there aren't a whole lot of lemmings in the Democratic Party, right? So it's very difficult to get all these clowns, walking in lockstep. But they're going to have one hell of a time. The Democrats, I mean, they're going to have one hell of a time. Even if they do nothing and just try to ignore 72 million people who are going to come around and say that this thing was stolen or rigged.
Yeah.
How the hell do you do it?
It's really hard to do. I'm hopeful that, I'm very concerned about that, guys. I am. But I'm hopeful that once things kind of go back to some normalcy, I think that we talked about some real world strategies that have to happen. You have to come in and you have to deliver. You have to come into Western Pennsylvania and you have to deliver something for the people that are going to be, affected through COVID. They're going to be affected through the real world facts that fracking isn't going to be the savior of the economy long term. It just isn't. We know that. If they can run a business there and still make money doing it, great. I'm not saying from the business standpoint or economic standpoint. I'm just saying, if from the business and economic standpoint, it turns out not to be as much of a boon as they thought it was going to be, then Biden's got to come in and say, look, here's our way back in this region. I'm going to help you. Okay. He's got to do that in different pockets of the country and deliver. And when you deliver those kind of things, it starts to change. It starts to take those sharp edges off a little bit, because people in those communities are going to say, you know what, this guy's not the boogeyman. It's not like you try to sell us this bag of horse crap. I mean, there are the true believers out there, and then there were the people that just basically went along because he was an incumbent. And don't underestimate the fact that there are people that just vote for an incumbent because he's the incumbent. But I think those people might be softened around the edges by a successful move to, get us back on track after COVID, to get us back on track economically, to, make sure that people have good health care, to answer the issues that are facing everyday Americans that we know that face Republicans and Democrats alike. And if that can be done and the messaging can be delivered that this was done because of a president who was paying attention and a Congress that's paying attention to that, then I think you've got some of that battle knocked out. But there are going to be some headwinds. There's going to be some headwinds, namely the fact that you got 72 million possibly pissed off people that they feel like the election was stolen from. Yes. You also have some headwinds in the fact that a lot of people don't realize that these Trump tax breaks are set to inflate taxes in 2021, 2023, and 2025. Okay, there's going to be tax bumps up every 2 years, and it's got to be told to the people right now that that's what's coming, and it has nothing to do with Biden or the Democrats. It was written into the law by Trump and the Republicans, and if it's going to be changed, we're going to have to change it now. Somebody's got to pay the price, but we're going to have to change it, or else everybody's going to be affected every 2 years starting in 2021. That messaging's got to get out there. The other thing is there's a possibility that the checks are going to come due on this whole overinflation of the stock market. So we've got to start creating real revenue for these companies so that this check on the stock markets don't bounce. And that goes hand in hand with what I was kind of saying earlier, that you start to infuse each local economy with things that can be done. Public works, infrastructure plan that was always talked about that was never really done. So those are things that can be done, and I think it does soften the edges if they can be done successfully.
Lou, I don't understand why infrastructure is so hard to get passed. How hard is it to give a municipality money to fix a road? How freaking hard can that possibly be?
Do you realize how shitty our electrical grid is? That alone. How many bridges? We live in the land of bridges. We know how bad they can be. Roads. How about, 16-inch water main blew up on the North Hill over the weekend. Wonder how long that's been in the ground.
Oh, those were, those pipes, they've been in there forever. They've been in there forever. Once it gets cold, watch how many pipes break in Pittsburgh. Every major city has weak lines. Yep.
Truthfully, I think a lot of it is because, we're going to have to pay skilled labor and the wages are going to go up. We can't pocket all our big bucks.
We still have, you can go through parts. And to go from our house to Frank's house, okay, you can hit large stretches of road where you have a utility pole that's literally a foot off the road, right? Literally a foot off the road, a foot behind the curb. Go through Mahoneytown, you can do it right now, right? Go from Mahoneytown to West Washington Street, okay? You can stick a baseball bat out the passenger window and start hitting power poles. I wouldn't do it. But you could, right? Why the fact that none of these lines are underground yet drives me crazy. Drives me crazy why these lines aren't underground. Right? You get some asshole had a really fun Friday night, and all of Mahoneytown's without power. For how long? Right? And we live in an elderly community. These folks can't go that way. Now, the power company does a pretty good job of getting things restored pretty quick, but why take the chance? There's your infrastructure right there, Frank. Just subsidize it if you have to, right? Go ahead, just do it. Just to get these things underground, get these poles off the streets. Upgrade. Well, whenever you get it underground, you're gonna have to upgrade everything that you're doing.
Yep.
And how many people are gonna put to work doing it? And that money's gonna be spent where they're working.
Exactly.
So the whole community benefits from it. people buying lunch or gasoline, or
Called return on investment.
Yeah.
Yep. $3 to $5 for every $1 earned, just about. I mean, you can put it somewhere between $3 and $5 for every $1 earned.
I can't understand how this could be. Nobody loses in this.
Here, let me throw this at you. Somebody told me this the other day, and it caught me off guard, and I'm like, wait, that doesn't even make sense. And guy told me, it was a customer, he says, with Trump there, or how do you put it? He says, well, Biden's going to put through infrastructure. I said, that's going to benefit our business. He says, how? I said, well, that money's going to be there. It's going to be offshoots. People are going to need buildings. They're going to need this. They'll need that. He said, well, that's only to benefit unions. I'm like, that benefits everybody. And then he said, well, Trump's idea was private business did it on their own. Name me one private business that's going to redo power lines, redo water lines, sewer lines, roads, bridges. What private business?
Doesn't exist. I mean, you know what?
Doesn't have the government does it to get the businesses to do it.
Right. Get have the money there. You would have contracted out to the businesses. Let them bid on it.
Exactly. That's the way it works.
That's how it works. Let them bid on it.
And I was like, but the government doesn't have their own construction company.
Right.
Oh.
I mean, the Army Corps of Engineers for certain things.
They're just engineer.
But that's for main, that's for what? Waterways and airports.
For the most part, disaster relief too, right?
Yeah.
But again, they just engineer. They don't build a damn thing.
Right. They're just.
Trust me when I tell you, an engineer can't build a god blessed thing. We can't do it.
Hey, I supplied some doors to the Army Corps of Engineers this year.
What's that?
I supplied some doors to the Army Corps of Engineers this year.
I tell you what, these guys are brilliant. But I promise you, half of them don't know which end of a shovel to put in the ground. Right? It's just a fact. That's just the way it is, right? That's why you have an army. Let them, dig the trenches and let them put it in.
Yeah.
Right? The engineers just figure out how to do it.
It's just, when you think of how the FDR, the New Deal worked, the public works, and they put people back to work, you can still see that shit in Newcastle today.
Yeah.
I think all those brick streets were paved.
Yeah. Delaware Avenue.
That was all during the Depression to put people to work.
Yeah.
Delaware still has portions that are brick.
Yeah, you can still find some. A lot of them are paved over, but they're still there.
Yeah, I mean, from the time I was a kid till now, a huge portion of it was paved over. But the lower end, when you start getting toward Park Avenue, heading down that way, there's still quite there's some stretches of brick. Which,
do you realize that brick's still under most of the streets as a base because it was so damn good?
Yeah. Well, dude, those things you can drive a tank over those things. I mean, they'd hold the weight. The track would destroy it, but it would hold the weight. You don't need to know that. Just trust me. Sorry. One last thing before we go. I'm going to read you a quote. I want you guys to tell me who said it. Okay. Here's the quote. When talking about people, those who protest health measures amid the let me start over again. When addressing the people who protest the health measures aimed at reducing the spread of COVID-19, this person, I'll give you a caveat. It's a he. And here's his quote. Some groups protested, refusing to keep their distance, marching against travel restrictions, as if measures that governments must impose for the good of their people constitute some kind of political assault on autonomy or personal freedom. He goes on further. You'll never find such people protesting the death of George Floyd or joining a demonstration because there are shanty towns where children lack water or education, or because there are whole families who have lost their income. On such matters, they would never protest. They are incapable of moving outside their own little world of interests.
Papa Francesco.
There you go. There you go. Now, I'm going to go out on the limb and say this guy might be the biggest badass on the planet. All right. When did you ever hear somebody that blunt who was in the position that he's in and just call people out for being assholes, which is basically what he did, right?
I mean, Pope John Paul II was very bold, and he was willing to confront people that were borderline dictators, and did a lot of that to the Soviet Union. And he came from Poland, so he grew up in an era that, you know, his country was very much affected by the Soviet Union, and he was very brave in that way too. But this is a different kind of bluntness. This is definitely a different kind of bluntness from, you know, Pope Francis, and he's not afraid to come out and say things that might not be politically popular, but he's reminding people that are Catholic and Christian that these are the things you should be concerned about. You know, it's pretty clear. So,
Dude, the fact that he even mentioned George Floyd, or, you know, what's that tell you?
Oh, he knows a lot what's going on here. Well, he has a few American Cardinals, so.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the fact that he was able to just rattle these things off like this, right? By the way, do you know what him and Trudeau from Canada have in common? I think I asked you guys this one time.
Remind me.
They were both bouncers.
Oh, yeah.
You think any kind of backlash that a Pope's going to get, he's going to care?
So what you're saying?
He's a bouncer in Argentina, for God's sake. I mean, come on.
So what you're saying is you're either in line to become the next Prime Minister of Canada or the next Pope, right?
You know what? I'd be willing to take either one, to be honest. I'm happy with it. You know, I don't look as good as Trudeau does, though. So, you know, I'll have to, you know, I'll look good in the, you know, community.
The pontiffs, yeah.
It'll look good. I won't have to worry. Once you size it one time, I'll be fine.
Well, here's something. I think this happened today. I'm looking at it now, and there's some well-known asshole names in it. The resolution was passed or put into the legislature today, disputing the election results in Pennsylvania. And of course, two well-known names that we know on this side of the state are Darrell Metcalfe and Aaron Bernstein.
Oh, jeez. Bernstein did.
Yeah, if he's in on the resolution too.
God, I thought he was smarter than that.
He's a grandstanding. I don't even know how to put it. I had it on pretty good authority that Wolf called him arrogant right to his face.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me. That doesn't. But he just saw Kelly get shot down. Why the hell would he even do this?
Well, was Kelly shot down though? Or was that a different one?
Yeah, but he saw right hand, left hand. I mean,
yeah, I know.
If you touch this over with your right hand and it gets burned, you touch it with your left hand, guess what's going to happen?
Yeah, you know, and Metcalfe's an idiot. There's Dowling in there, Devanzo, Irvin, Lewis, Borowitz, Zimmerman. There's a few. Rothman must be from the other side of the state too.
So what's this genius thing they came up with?
It says the resolution intends to declare the 2020 election results as being in dispute, delay the certification of votes from Pennsylvania for both the state and presidential races.
Well, how are you going to do that after it was certified? Why do you do after the fact?
And how do you do it? Well, if they did it, they have to be certified by Monday, or they don't exist. The down ballot has to be certified by Monday, or there's no House.
Oh, there's no right, and what I'm saying is the presidential ones, the top of the ballot, has already been certified.
Already been certified.
Frank, maybe I'm crazy, but whenever I'm testing, my company tests a radiator and it blows up, I can't go back and say no, it didn't blow up.
Right. Doesn't work that way.
It's already there. It's in pieces. I got, cooling all over me. It went boom.
Sounds to me like it's a PR stunt. Sounds to me like it's just playing to your audience, those folks who, the Bernsteins of the world, who seem to be able to get elected even in the face of handing a lit cigar to your 5-year-old kid. Yeah, I guess you could play to that base.
And when you're at that point, when you're that set, right, that you can do shit like that, why are you grandstanding? You don't need it.
I guess,
you don't have to generate another vote for as long as you live. You don't have to. You're in.
Yeah.
Wait, do it. I mean, was Trump going to go after him?
Right.
He doesn't even know who Bernstein is. Just sit back, let these assholes make fools of themselves, and keep getting reelected. How hard can it be? He has a Twitter account. You tweet something stupid every now and then, so you sound like asshole Rubio, and just go on your way.
Yeah. Exactly.
All the MAGAs will eat you up.
Yep.
Right? I mean, what's his name, too? The one that when Trump went after his wife.
Oh, Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz. There's the other brain surgeon, right?
Yep.
He says something that, that kisses Trump's ass, in one day a month or something like that. And this guy, he can do no wrong. All the MAGAs on Twitter love him. He doesn't do a bitching thing. He doesn't do a damn thing. He kisses Trump's ass once out of every 6 dozen tweets that his office puts out. He's the greatest things in the world. These MAGAs will fight to the death for him. I don't get why put yourself out on a. Oh, I don't know.
Well, I want to give you guys something. We like to end the show on a Friday with kind of whether they be lighthearted or funny things. I know Lou hopefully has got something for us funny. I'll go back to a topic we talked about earlier, the Resolute desk. You half jokingly, Patsy, said it's as old as Biden. It's Biden's pretty close. It was given by Queen Victoria to Rutherford B. Hayes in 1880. It came from the HMS Resolute, which was, of course, for those that know, Her Majesty's Service Navy was sailing a ship called the Resolute. Right. So from the wood of that ship, they created the Resolute desk. It's basically been in the White House since then, with a brief exception after John F. Kennedy's assassination. It went on tour around the United States to various museums and places that people could actually view it in person. And then this fact I found very interesting. Jimmy Carter brought it back. So it's been back in the Oval Office since 1977 when Jimmy Carter brought it back. And it's still there now. So it's a pretty neat piece of history, and how it got there, how it was made, the gifting from Queen Victoria, and the importance of it from that perspective up till today. It's pretty interesting.
That is very interesting. I bet there's a whole ton of people that didn't realize that's where the name of the desk came from. Right? Which should have been a heads up that Trump's never going to be in a Resolute anything, right? It had to be named after something.
Yeah.
Before we kill this thing for the week, Frank, you and I hadn't talked in a couple of days about Diego Maradona.
Right.
Right. Legendary soccer player. Was responsible for bringing Argentina their only World Cup. Right, played on that side. I think we had 32 goals and 96 caps for Argentina. And there is a huge debate of the greatest of all time being either him or Messi. And I go on a limb and say it was Messi. And would you like to hear my reasons for doing that? Not to take anything away from Maradona, but
I want to hear your reasons. But I agree with you. But go ahead.
Because of all the national team jerseys the Pope could have, he only has Messi's. That's why. And just to show how fucked up we are in this country, everybody, all the American idiots, whenever the Maradona passed, all thought that Madonna passed. Really? I mean, you didn't even bother to look. They're doing RIP's Madonna all over. I mean, it was trending on Twitter. It was like, you idiots, was a male soccer player. old enough to be her father.
Yeah.
This is how out of touch we are, dude.
It's really bad. It's really bad. I will say this about Maradona. I posted something that day on Instagram. I grabbed a picture, a screen grab. We were in Napoli, in Naples. My family got to visit Naples. Fortunate enough to do that. Blessed enough to do that. I've been there a couple times by myself once, and then with them later. And what you realize when you go to Naples, and of course I haven't been there since he died because it just happened this week, but what you realize when you walk through Naples, you can walk through, what might be considered slums, and you can walk through what might be considered the wealthiest parts of Naples. And everywhere you go, you see something about Maradona, Diego Maradona. He's the saint of, basically the unofficial saint of Naples. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When he played for Napoli club team, the people in Naples lost their mind collectively. They loved it so much because that would be like having Messi. Now think about it. When you think about club side soccer, even today, it still translates. In Italy, Juventus is the number one team.
Mm-hmm.
Inter Milan has had its runs at times. Napoli is kind of like, they're always there, they're always good, but they're not the number one team in Italy. They never have been in Italy soccer. I mean, they've won the league, but in terms of just being thought of as that top
Yes.
dog.
Right.
In Spain, you've got Barcelona and Real Madrid who have always battled for that top dog spot. And internationally, when you add in like Manchester United and Liverpool, the top names in the world, and he chose to play for Napoli. When he decided to finally leave Napoli, because he wasn't a one club team like Messi, and that's another reason why I believe Messi's the greatest. He wasn't a one club guy. When he finally decided to leave Napoli, people cried. They cried. Literally, there were tears flowing. They see it on the news. But to this day, they still forgive him and idolize him. There's murals of him all over the place. There are medallions and trinkets in every little store. That's how much he meant to the people of Naples, and still means to the people of Naples. So it's so iconic, and he's such an icon, that while I think that the merits of arguing who's the best player on the pitch, yes, I agree with you, Messi. Who had the most influence from probably our childhood to now? To me, it would be Maradona, because kids in Italy and Argentina and probably all over the world, even in England, where he was hated for the hand of God thing, they still think they think he's one of the greatest ever.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's all.
Yep, completely. Anyhow, the one passion that we have being soccer, we lost we lost a big one today or this week.
Yeah,
we really did. He was one of the greatest, and definitely a character. Anyhow, guys, what do you say we wrap this thing up? Thank you for tuning in and watching us. We really do appreciate it. We will be back on Monday, same bad time, same bad channel. But until then, I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. Hopefully, yours was as boring as ours were. If not, hopefully Christmas will be. Okay. But until Monday, for everybody, thank you. Bye. Good luck, and God bless. We'll see you.